Hello, Nomad, and welcome to Frisbee. I think these are just a few videos I wanted to make to help explain how we plan on doing things and, yeah, going through that. I'll let Tom talk to defense, but my goal here is to mainly take you through the three sorts of offensive looks we're planning on doing, which is going to be sort of a hoe, a vert, and then something a bit different. I want to keep it relatively simple. I don't know how in depth these videos will end up being, but relatively simple as obviously some of us haven't played together before. So yeah, we'll very much go through that and see where things go. So I guess to begin here would be your normal sort of hoe look. Say if the disc's in the middle over here, it's going to be a very sort of stock standard. These two players are going to be engaged in the middle if the disc is by blue, with someone probably looking to make cuts a little bit like this, so we can hopefully hit any of these sorts of options, either if this is a break side or open side cut, whatever that might be, or hitting someone who's going deep. I think on the out cut, it's probably going to be more of a this person going straight out, so this person can do what they want rather than across and making that an awkward throw, and then coming back to this angle. Of course, you're looking over your shoulder, all those good things, and then yeah, we'll very much take it from there. So here you'll see we've got the disc on the sideline, different position obviously. What I'd like to see in this instance is us looking to use the two people on the sideline. So instead of it being the middle two hand cutters that it was earlier, now we're going to look to have, I think ideally this person's going to be looking to come under and sort of slash out of that space, just to make a lot of space for this cutter to then make a deep cut, come under, whatever that might be. Again, you probably don't want to be doing that, but going more straight out, looking over your shoulder, looking back at the disc to see what happens, and then you can always make this undercut over here. A little variation we can always look to do, which would be nice. I don't know if we want to talk about it or name it something, might be both of these players come under here, and this gives this player a lot of room to go out and come under over there. If it's extremely windy, it can almost always be a variation if the outcut's not super viable, that they do something along those sorts of lines. But that's something that I'd like us to chat about as well. I think that's a good variation there for the sideline. Obviously, if we can't hit those initial few looks, we're always going to look to hit the reset. And I think that's going to be your sort of a stock standard. Ideally, we're not getting the disc back here unless it's a last resort, but I'd almost like to see this person making this sort of cut. Again, it doesn't have to happen, but ideally it's early enough that if we're not hitting this person's coming into play with a slash cut, the secondary handle over here. One thing which I didn't cover, which I think would be an important thing to sort of nurture, or you can see now that the orange is defense, is if the disc now is in the middle of the field, I think we can make our lives easier as the handler set by looking to position ourselves a bit better. So this guy over here, I'd say you probably more want to drop back a bit, as some intelligent teams are going to have this defender over here sort of fall off and claim this space and obviously poach the lane. So I think a good job of what we can do there is have this reset handler sort of fall off to this space, while this one's pretty fine to stay in line. The sorts of cuts you're looking at, depending on who gets activated when we're in the middle of the field, is this is a great cut to just go hit the break side. Otherwise, of course, you can always do something like this, look to gain some yardage. That's always great as well. If we're hitting this handler on the other side, it's probably quite standard that you're just going to go up the line or maybe even slash over here to get it. But yeah, ideally, let's look upfield. I want to say 4 to 5 seconds, try to hit one of those options. And if we can't hit one of those, we'll sort of divert to hitting one of the handlers and trying to play a flowy offense from there. Once we've worked it quite far up the field, I'm going to suggest that we go into more of a vert structure, but obviously we can see how that develops as the tournament goes on. This is from the 2024 World Ultimate Championships. A good job to those that can read. An open game between Australia and Germany. I think Germany's hoe is, I don't want to say it's the cleanest thing I've ever seen, but it's a pretty good example of what I would like to see and gives a good representation. I think for me, I'm even not opposed to us starting a little bit closer to the handler set to give more room for a deep cut. But you'll see number 24 makes an out cut. Number what looks like 42 makes an in cut a bit later. Ideally, I think we can make those at the same time rather than a bit of delay. But I'm also not opposed to us. I'd rather we don't make a cut, then we make a bunch of frantic cuts and nothing really happens. But you'll see then the disc swings to the sideline, and then this guy gets involved as well. And I'm quite happy for him to make a in cut to the middle. So there you go, cut 1, cut 2, swings to this side, number 6 gets involved to clear, which makes room for 24 on the undercut, and then it gets jacked to, I think, the guy from the other sideline. We don't need to talk about that not being a completion, but visually, I think that's a pretty good representation of what I'd like to see. For me, third stack is a way to isolate someone who's cooking and, ideally let them have at it. But I think that can work very well through both front and back of stack. Obviously, we're probably going to be playing against some good teams. I will expect some poaching and those sorts of things, and then I want us to be playing very smart heads-up offense. But for the most part, I think our very basic default is going to be looking at back of stack to obviously make, okay, maybe I should put a disc on the field. Say there's the disc, back of stack is going to be making an out cut, and then normally an in cut. Again, of course, you're looking over your shoulders, as I've been saying in all these videos. For me, it doesn't have to be an in cut. Obviously, we can throw deep. In all of these things I've been saying, I would love to see us hit some deep options. I think Nomad often is a team that doesn't look to hit deep options. I don't want it to be a hooky team. I want us to be, taking 100% options, but that is an option, especially when big people are joining us and we actually have tall people for once. Otherwise, generally, I want to see you cutting to the open side. I think if we're looking for a break side thing, that's probably going to be a front of stack thing. So nice and early, -2, so hopefully you're making this cut to allow second in stack also to make a cut before we're starting to look at hitting the reset. Otherwise, if we want to be cheeky, I'm always keen for a little breakthrough into this space with the disc. The front of stack handler should always be looking to make a cut to here. And then, of course, obviously, if we've had back of stack go off, next in stack, you can always look to come under. That's why while you're in this position over here, you want to be looking over your shoulder once you're making that cut to see, cool, where is the continuation going? If we hit this person in here, obviously it's cheeky position. We don't always have to be back of stack. I want us to sort of play it by ear, but you can always look to hit the other handler who will be following through over here. Obviously they're looking a lot more forwards unless you're doing the cheeky travel and rounding the corner like this, which obviously I don't want us to be cheating, but hey, that's how people frisbee seems to happen. So that's our sort of back of stack with me tangenting on. Another thing I'd like to see is obviously a front of stack thing. From front of stack, if we're playing in a lot of wind, we might look to hit the front of stack. What that will look like will generally be more lateral cuts. I'd say that this cut is probably more viable, but you're probably going to need to beat a mark because this handler is probably going to have their mark sort of sit in this channel somewhere. But hey, play it by ear, beat your person over here, and then from there a continuation's either going to be back of stack if back of stack's very viable. If back of stack's not viable, we're looking to hit second in stack is making a move if you've received the disc over here. Those sorts of things, but again, look back at the handlers, use them as well. Next up, I want to talk about sideline. So I think what we see a lot of the time is we're unsure about who's cutting. I want our default to almost be cool. We're looking at our reset handler. Um, I'm not opposed to a big back of stack cut. Ideally, you're not really making an undercut though. If that is quite early, like I want to say like -4, -5. If this person is looking to like do that, but then ideally you're also clearing break side here so that your mark's not getting involved on the open side. If that's viable, that's great. Let's make an open let's make a deep cut and make that threat, but we're almost going to be playing a more Japanese style J stack, I want to say, from the sideline, where we're looking to isolate our reset handler, and that gives them space to either take 2 steps here, get the disc over here. Ideally, I don't want it to be a huge negative where they're getting the disc down here somewhere, but I want it to be 2 steps here, reset center, or the priority is beating your mark up the line somewhere here. I don't want you to be loitering in this space, as if you don't get it in the negative space, obviously that's not a good idea, but this is great if you can get the disc somewhere over here. Otherwise, you can clear out. So the 2 options, if it does go back, well, I want to say the option 1 is you get the disc over here. It's a back of stack cut. If it's super windy, we can always look to involve front of stack again. Otherwise, you get looked off here, you're clearing out of the space, and then front of stack is making a cut, something along this. So either they can get the disc over here, or they go up the line. If they can beat their mark, that's great, get it in a power position over here. If the disc does go backwards, and we get it over here, it's then on next in stack to ideally be receiving the disc on the break side here. I'm making that a negative cut. I don't want it to be such a negative cut. If this person receives the disc over here, obviously you've got to make a bit more of a negative cut to help them out, depending on the situation, win factor, all those sorts of things. But if they get it over here, you can look to make a very lateral cut. And then again, from that position, we're making a back of stack cut. That's very much how I see us setting up and going from things. If it doesn't make sense to you, drop me a note. We can chat about that further. So for teaching end zone offense, and again, how we're going to play vert, I quite like this play from the US. Less so about how it's finished, but more so the beginnings and how it's run. Again, like I mentioned earlier, ideally this guy isn't positioned over here, but more somewhere in this space over here to make those cuts a bit easy. But your principles I'd like to see you take away is look how much space front of stack gives themselves and how the rest of stack also pulls themselves out of the play, just to mean that this guy is isolated and can make a good play. So you'll see they swing back to center, throw that if the mark's not there. This guy slashes out of the space and clears. And look, we're just using front of stack now. So now we've got the next front of stack come through. Can't hit that. Comes across for the slash. And now next person's front of stack. Nice and easy. Obviously, they don't get looked at until much later in the count. And here they get a bit cheeky with it. But if you keep those first sort of principles that I was looking at, I think that's how we're going to work it out. Ideally, without having to throw these over the tops. And lastly, we've got my new weird structure. Yeah, I've tried to been running with this a little bit, and it's definitely something that it's a work in progress. Let's put it that way. But it's worked a couple times. It hasn't worked a couple times running it sort of informally at practice. You'll see it's almost a hoe, but our two people are setting up laterally in the middle. So this will be more of a set play sort of look. And ideally, it's something I'm also thinking, hey, we can use mixed play to our advantage and hopefully, go about it in that way. So I think often if you have two people in the middle in some kind of set thing, you're going to have people try bracket that. If they bracket us, that's amazing. Ideally, I'm always going to want this to be a male matching player and a female matching player. So for this one, I've just said green girl, blue boy. Obviously, there's more dynamics. I'm not getting into that in this video, but ideally, I think we can create some mismatches through this. So say in this position, they've set up quite normally, matching us the same ways. I think if this person is cutting, I will go back to red, the standard color I've been using cut. If our female matching player takes a couple steps this way to avoid a pick, cuts out in this direction, obviously they're going to beat their mark every single time. If for whatever reason this male matching player chooses to poach off and stop, then we've got a mismatch for our male matching player to make a cut under and receive the disc under here or over here somewhere. If they don't, then hopefully both our players are free. Hopefully our male matching player's mark follows them under, but they've already lost a couple of meters because obviously they're shading behind, and same for our female matching player who's going deep. So that should be hopefully two viable options in set play. So that's how I see this as a set play to come off and something that I'm excited to try doing. I don't know if I've explained this super well, but basically I would hope this comes from a static disc, or it could be a pull that, sat in the air for a long time. And then as we're catching to center, these two players are looking at each other. Basically, you're looking in this direction, you're looking in this direction, and from that, you've decided, cool, one person, it's something that you're going to react. So say, cool, whatever, James is in the middle, James is going to make the first move, I'm going to react. If James's mark's asleep, cool, just go deep. If not, James is probably going to cut to one direction, you should cut to the other direction and create this sort of movement. I hope that makes sense. Again, ask me if you have any questions, happy to chat about further. From that initial movement, you might be thinking, okay, Jason, that's cool, great set play, wow, what happens from here? So there's a few ways we can go about this. If we've hit an undercut with the disc, suddenly it's over here, this person's probably facing backwards. What I would like them to do then is so the discs over here with this blue player is probably hit this player that's running in this direction. That would be a nice way to create flow from that. And then we've got probably an ISO with this player. Obviously, that is the same third, not ideal. So don't know where the green person is now, but I think we can ideally, we've got these players. Green's probably disappeared off over here somewhere. So between these players who are moving up the field, obviously communicating, looking backwards, one is probably looking to make an undercut into the space over here. Otherwise, obviously, we could do something audacious like hit a big huck to this person who's coming deep. These are all ways I'd like to see this play out. How it actually plays out, I don't know yet, and that's something that we have to work on. But ideally, I think we're isolating or hitting one of these two options, and then from there we're getting a continuation from the sideline, obviously with the handlers looking to support however they might. So I want to say another option is we just hit this deep cut. Obviously, then I want these two wing cutters following up to support that. Otherwise, say this person doesn't get the disc, they've cleared out here, this person's gone deep, there's a lot of space in the middle for these two wings to come into. So then I'm looking at them to sort of look to make a slash cut. Obviously, by then the stall count is probably getting high, so then we're also going to be looking to hit a reset. If a reset does get hit and this is falling apart, then I want to say, cool, let's just go to a normal hoe from here. And if that's not working or we get close to the end zone or it's a one pass thing, let's go to our vert stack that we're hoping to play around the end zone and yeah, play it from there. One thing I didn't mention earlier, which I will mention now, once we're going to vert stack at the end, I want us to be playing through front of stack. So I want that to be sort of looking at our front of stack or looking at our reset handler and trying to swing it and jump it into the end zone from there. Lots of rambling. I hope this all makes sense. If you have any questions, please let me know. Happy to chat about this further or further explain it. Have a good one, peeps. Cheers.